When you're welding, cutting, and brazing, you expose yourself to lots of potential hazards. There are flames and sparks to worry about, arc rays, flying debris, and even electric shock. But there's another hazard that may not be so obvious. That's the hazard associated with handling the cylinders that contain compressed fuel gases. These cylinders, sometimes called sleeping giants, have great destructive power. If mishandled, they can explode, leaving a wide swath of death and destruction. Gas cylinders used in welding, cutting, and brazing operations contain potentially dangerous gases. These gases include oxygen, which supports combustion, and propane or acetylene, which can be explosive when mixed with air or certain compounds. There's only one way to avoid trouble when handling gas welding cylinders, and that's to observe safe work practices at all times. First of all, inspect all cylinders for damage, corrosion, or other signs of possible damage or defects before using. If you see any damage or defects, take the cylinder out of service. Handle cylinders carefully. Remember, these cylinders contain potentially dangerous gases under high pressure. Avoid dropping cylinders or allowing them to strike each other violently. Also, be careful to keep oxygen cylinders and fittings away from oily or greasy substances. Oil and grease may ignite spontaneously when in contact with oxygen. When using fuel gas cylinders, place them valve end up. Make sure they are secured and on a flat surface. Keep cylinders away from sparks, hot slag, or other sources of artificial heat. Also, keep cylinders away from contact with electric circuits and from possible grounds for electric circuits. Never tap electrodes against cylinders to strike an arc. Always take precautions when opening cylinder valves. Before connecting a regulator to a cylinder valve, open the valve slightly, then close it immediately to clear the valve of dust and dirt. Always stand to one side of the outlet when opening the cylinder valve. Do not crack the valve of a fuel gas cylinder near other welding, sparks, flames, or other sources of ignition. Open valves slowly to avoid damage to the regulator. For quick closing, do not open the valve on a fuel gas cylinder more than 1 1/2 turns, and preferably no more than 3/4 of a turn. Avoid placing anything on top of acetylene cylinders that might damage the safety devices or interfere with the quick closing of the valve. Also, avoid tampering with safety devices in cylinders and valves. Before using gas welding cylinders, make sure all hose, cylinder, and regulator attachments are tight and not leaking. If you find a leaking valve or fitting that can't be stopped by closing the valve, take the cylinder outdoors, away from sources of ignition, and empty it slowly. If the fuse plug or any other safety device develops a leak, remove it from the work area. Post warnings to keep lighted cigarettes or other sources of ignition away. Also, tag the cylinder and notify your supervisor. When you're finished with a job, close all valves, even if the cylinder is empty. Remove regulators and replace protective caps before transporting cylinders. Store cylinders only in designated storage areas. Store oxygen cylinders away from acetylene or other fuels. In a fire, the oxygen would support and greatly accelerate combustion of flammable materials. Store acetylene in a separate fuel compound. Secure cylinders in a vertical position, never on their sides. Storing or using acetylene in any other position can be extremely dangerous. When used properly, gas cylinders are safe, but when used improperly, they have the potential to do great harm. To ensure safety, know the hazards and take appropriate precautions. This is James Drury, reminding you to take care and be safe.